Every now and then you visit a place that stays with you long after you've left. And for us, New England in the fall was one of those places.
Every drive seemed more beautiful than the last. Every little town had its own quaint charm, and just when we thought we'd seen the best colors, we turned another corner and somehow they were even more spectacular.
But here's the thing, a trip like this takes a little bit more planning than you might think. So in this video, we're going to share everything we learned from our full road trip through Vermont and New Hampshire, along with everything we think you need to know if you're planning on visiting.
We'll cover when to go, what to see, and a few mistakes that are really easy to avoid, plus some essential tips to make your trip even more unforgettable.
And if you're new here, we're Ryan and Manuel.
And here's everything you need to know to plan a perfect fall road trip to New England.
When you think of New England in the fall, the big question that comes to mind is, when is the best time to go?
Well, if what you want to do is to do some leaf peeping, which is the name for when you travel to see the fall colors, fall foliage in New England is at its best normally between late September and mid to late October. But what days to exactly pick? Before going, we spent a lot of time worrying that we were not going to see any of the fall colors. But we quickly learned that there was no need to worry, as long as you visit during the right period, you will find autumn somewhere. We visited the first week of October, exactly from the 3rd to the 7th, but because we kept moving around, we found areas where the trees were starting to turn, alongside areas that were in full peak color. And it was perfect because we saw the whole spectrum, from the yellow to the oranges and reds.
Something to keep in mind is the pattern of the foliage changing, which moves from the north to the south and also from higher elevation areas down to more southern coastal areas. One thing you can do to make sure that you visit at the right time is keep an eye on the several fall foliage maps and forecasts that start appearing months before. We'll link our favorites in the description down below. But because you don't want to wait to book until the last minute, we would say commit to the dates you picked, and when you are there, check the foliage report in case there might be an area at full peak right by you, and if needed, do some final tweaks to your itinerary. That's what we did, and it worked out really well for us. But remember, every year is slightly different.
There will be some areas where colors still haven't changed, some other areas where it will feel like you are in a technicolor dream, and others where the leaves would have fallen. So relax and just be in the moment, as unfortunately you can't control nature. But there is also so much more that makes autumn autumn.
So the next question you may be asking is, what are the best things to see? Well, there is so much you don't want to miss, including seeing some covered bridges, corn mazes, windy country roads lined with maple syrup farms and charming towns. Actually, we have made a couple of videos with our fall adventure that we'll link here and down below if you want to check them out. But if you are wondering what the best of the best is, here is a list of our favorite things that you absolutely cannot miss.
When you are in New Hampshire, there are 3 stops you absolutely can't miss. The first one is the Kankamegas Highway. Also known as the Kankamegas Highway is an absolute must-do. It's a 34.5-mile drive that takes you to the heart of the White Mountains, and it's considered one of the best places in New England to see the fall colors. Our favorite stops here are the Albany Covered Bridge, Lower Falls, the Rocky Gorge Scenic Area, the Russell Colbarth Historic Site, and the Saturday Falls Trail. But for us, the absolute highlight were the many viewpoints along the road. We seriously could not believe the array of colors we saw from here. The next stop you can't miss in New Hampshire is the Flume Gorge, located in the Franconia Notch State Park. This is a natural granite gorge where you'll see towering moss-covered granite walls, cascading waterfalls, historic covered bridges, glacial pools, and much more. And last but not least, one of our favorite hikes in New England, the Artist Bluff Trail. This is a 1.5-mile trail that takes you to one of the best viewpoints you would have ever seen. It's sometimes very steep, but it's so worth it.
And in Vermont, there's even more to do, including the Cold Hollow Cider Mill. Here, you can witness the making of fresh apple cider and try it both hot or cold. You can also try their legendary apple cider donuts, which were to die for. Other stops include Stowe, a truly perfect spot to feel the autumn vibes and the perfect place for a stroll along Main Street, holding a pumpkin spice latte and enjoying the quaint atmosphere and the laid-back vibes, surrounded by cafes and independent shops. Also, you can't miss Smuggler's Notch, a spectacular 3.5-mile route renowned for its tight hairpin turns, massive boulders and dense forests. Also, Sugarbush Farm, a 500-acre farm located in a truly idyllic area where you can try some delicious cheese, but most of all, 4 different grades of pure maple syrup that are made right there in the farm. And you can even walk amongst the maple trees to see how they are tapped to collect the maple syrup, which was absolutely fascinating. But our absolute favorite stop in Vermont was Woodstock, which during this season is just absolutely perfect.
Beautiful.
We love walking down the super cute Main Street, soaking up all the autumnal vibes, and also exploring the historic covered bridge area. It was all we had hoped for when we were planning this fall trip.
And now that you know when to go and what to see, there are still some other things you absolutely have to know before planning your trip to New England. So here are 10 tips and mistakes you should avoid when visiting New England in the fall.
Number 1, start your days early. It will be really busy, so bring your patience. It's 1 month of the year, so of course everyone will be there during that time. Parking can be hard to find, and also driving times can be a bit longer due to the busy crowds. Look, we know that waking up early is a bit boring, but nothing beats those early morning autumn vibes with fog in the air. It's very crispy, the smells are amazing, and you also beat the crowd, so it's one of our biggest tips. Also, if you can, try to avoid weekends, because as you can imagine, in the more popular areas it is so busy during that time.
Number 2, because it will be busy, it's a good idea to book early. So this is the advice that most people are gonna give you. However, we decided to go about 2.5 months before, and we still were able to secure most of the things we wanted. But yes, it's a good idea to reserve in advance, for example, restaurants, attractions you want to see like the Flume Gorge, the Mount Washington Cog Railway, the Stowe gondolas, but most of all, accommodation.
Number 3, be prepared for unpredictable weather. Look, it's autumn after all, so anything could happen. When we went, initially we were graced with great, beautiful autumn crisp days, but then on our last day it did rain, so a lot of the leaves fell to the ground much earlier than expected. So we just embraced it because, you know, come rain, fog, clouds, sun, it's all part of the New England fall experience, so it will be beautiful whatever the weather.
Number 4, don't enter private properties just because you've seen them on social media. If you've seen an off the beaten path location you want to visit, always check if it is on private property. There's an instance a few years ago of the Sleepy Hollow farm in Woodstock that it became so busy and popular that residents could not access their home anymore. So now all the roads around the farm are closed and you can't visit anymore. We definitely have seen lots of wild behavior from people trying to take the ultimate Instagram photo, but we really don't think it's worth it because literally anywhere you go is beautiful. So just like take your car, have a drive, and you'll find the most beautiful spots anywhere.
Number 5, it can be expensive, so don't feel like you need to do everything. Traveling to New England in the fall can be very pricey, especially if you start doing all of the popular attractions. However, we didn't do many of the more expensive experiences like the Cog Railway or the Stowe gondola. Instead, we took everything at our own pace. Also, instead of eating at some of the expensive restaurants, we shopped at a local grocery store, which is a really good way to save some money, especially if you're staying in an accommodation with a kitchen, say. But we still tried all of the seasonal food items and drinks, of course.
Number 6, pick your accommodation wisely. If your fall road trip focuses mainly on New Hampshire and Vermont, like our one did, we think it's a good idea to split the accommodation, so spending some nights in one state and some nights in the other. This will allow you for more time exploring and shorter daily drives, which is brilliant. Also, another tip is to maybe avoid the big touristic places like Stowe or Woodstock and instead looking for an accommodation in the countryside. When we went, we spent a few nights in Peeping, Vermont, and a few nights in Eton, New Hampshire, and it was so beautiful in the middle of the countryside with farms everywhere. It was stunning.
Number 7, if you really want to see the fall colors at their peak, flexibility is the key. As we said earlier, the pattern is north to south and elevation to sea. So if your priority is seeing the peak of the peak, you really should check the full foliage map. And there are many online, which we will list some down below. So in this case, having a flexible itinerary is the key, as colors can change literally overnight.
Number 8, download offline maps. This is because the internet is good only about 50% of the times, and we found ourselves in situations where we didn't know where to go because we had no maps. So yeah, that's essential. Of course, you are gonna find internet in the main towns and the main locations, but also sometimes it just feels so nice to be disconnected.
Number 9, the drive is amazing, but make sure you get out of your car. This is because there are so many incredible walks that you can take. I mean, sure, experiencing the coziness of autumn is really magical from your car, but it gets even better the moment you step out of it and just soak up all of those autumnal vibes, the smells, the sounds, and the whole vibe of autumn is just amazing when you're out in the middle of it.
And finally, number 10, be in the moment and don't worry too much about the weather or the peak fall colors. I say this because I do worry a lot. Ryan doesn't tend to, but I do. And I've done so much research on where the best fall colors were and how to avoid the weather and all of that. But it turns out that a fall road trip to New England is all about the journey, not about the destination. It's the perfect chance to just unwind and enjoy this beautiful season. So I suppose our main tip is just have fun and don't worry.
So that's it for all the things you need to know before planning a full New England trip. It's such a special place, and we really wish that we could snap our fingers and be back there amongst those farms, windy country roads, and all of those magnificent fall colors. There really is nothing quite like it.
If you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell to never miss an adventure. It really goes a long way and it really helps our channel.
And if you want more full New England content, be sure to check out our autumn, Vermont, and New Hampshire videos. And now, see you down the road!